All right, ready to dive into some unbelievable Bible stories. And I'm not talking about the ones you heard in Sunday school.
Huh.
Think you know the Bible. Get ready to be surprised.
We're taking a shortcut through some fascinating and often overlooked parts of the Bible.
Yeah, using a YouTube video called Unbelievable Bible Stories You Didn't Know Existed.
From the channel Bible Animations.
Right, as our guide for this deep dive.
It's perfect for anyone who, wants to know these fascinating details, but doesn't necessarily have time to read the whole Bible.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
about exploring these surprising stories and their context.
And seeing what insights we can glean.
Even if we're not coming at this from, a strictly religious perspective.
Exactly. It's a springboard for some deeper thinking, regardless of your beliefs.
Absolutely.
So first up, picture this. Jerusalem in peril,
Ooh.
and a giant angel standing between heaven and earth
Wow.
with a sword aimed right at the city.
That's a scene straight out of a movie.
I know, right? Talk about a visual.
This is from 1 Chronicles 21. And to really grasp the scale of this angel, the video points out this really interesting detail. He's standing on a threshing floor.
A threshing floor.
Basically a big flat area where they used to separate grain from the chaff.
Oh, okay.
Imagine turning around and seeing this colossal being just standing on your workplace.
Whoa, talk about a bad day at the office.
Right.
But it's not just about the spectacle, right? There's got to be more to this giant angel appearing. Is it tied to King David's actions?
You got it. Fill me in. King David takes a census of Israel, which, for reasons that aren't fully clear, is seen as a transgression against God.
Okay, so he realizes he's messed up and has to choose between some pretty grim consequences.
Exactly. 3 terrible options. 3 years of famine, 3 months of enemy attacks, or 3 days of divine judgment.
Oh man, that's rough. So what does he choose?
Well, David chooses the last option, hoping for God's mercy.
But that mercy comes at a cost.
Yeah, a heavy cost.
How'd it happen?
70,000 people die from a plague, and this angel is sent as a symbol of divine judgment.
Wow, this whole story is about more than just a giant angel, right? It's about accountability, even for a king.
And this complex interplay of justice and mercy.
Right.
Precisely. So even in the face of judgment, there's a possibility for grace.
So God stops the angel from destroying Jerusalem.
Exactly, showing that compassion can exist even amidst punishment.
Okay, interesting. Speaking of power, our next story takes us from angelic giants to superhuman speed.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
We're jumping to 1 Kings 18 and 19, focusing on the prophet Elijah.
All right, so this is after his epic showdown with the prophets of Baal.
Right, where he proves the power of the God of Israel.
By calling down fire from heaven,
And then what happened?
the famine ends, rain starts pouring down, and Elijah tells King Ahab to get his chariot moving before the roads become impassable.
Wait, so Elijah's just chilling after this fire from heaven ordeal?
Not exactly. He does something even more unbelievable.
What's that?
He outruns the chariot
What?
on foot.
No way. Seriously, this guy just left a chariot in the dust. I need to know more about this.
Okay, so the text says that the power of the Lord came upon Elijah,
Okay.
and he just takes off running, covering over 16 miles to Jezreel.
16 miles. That's like winning a marathon, except he's racing against a chariot.
That's right.
So even in a modern marathon, that's a pretty impressive time.
Yeah.
Or against a chariot, that's next level. What's the deeper meaning here?
Well, think about it. He just called down fire from heaven, right?
Yeah.
You'd think he'd be exhausted, but instead, this quiet power takes over.
Oh, I see.
He's driven by something deeper, something beyond physical strength.
So it's like the fire was a show of force, but this run is about pure, unwavering faith in action.
Exactly. It highlights Elijah's unwavering faith and the idea that sometimes extraordinary acts are driven by deep conviction.
Wow, that's a powerful contrast.
It's a reminder that power can manifest in unexpected ways.
Talk about a story that makes you think twice. Speaking of tricky situations, our next story features a prophet who gets caught in a web of deception.
Oh.
Yeah, you might want to grab some popcorn for this one. It's a wild ride.
Okay, let's hear it.
We're moving on to 1 Kings 13. And let's just say, even for seasoned Bible readers, this one's a bit of a head-scratcher.
Uh-oh.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so we have this young prophet delivering a prophecy to a king.
Okay, seems straightforward enough.
Right, but then things take a turn
Oh no, what happens?
for the strange.
Okay,
Yeah, this young prophet refuses the king's hospitality, saying he has divine instructions not to eat or drink there.
okay, so he's like, nope, not touching that food.
Pretty much.
What happens next?
But then an old prophet shows up,
Oh.
claiming that God told him to bring the young prophet back for a meal.
Whoa, 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 hold on. So did this old prophet straight up lie?
Well, that's what the text seems to imply.
Oh, man.
And the young prophet believes him, breaks his fast, and...
Well, let me guess. Divine punishment for breaking his instructions.
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, no.
He's killed by a lion on his way home.
Oh, wow.
And to make things even more unsettling, the lion and the donkey he was riding are found standing peacefully next to his body.
Super creepy. Okay, so what are we supposed to take away from this story?
I know, right?
What's the lesson here?
There are definitely some layers to this one.
Yeah, it seems like a lot to unpack.
It could be about the dangers of disobedience,
Okay.
or the importance of trusting your own intuition, even when faced with, seemingly divine authority.
Right, right.
It could also be about the complexities of prophecy itself.
Oh, interesting.
Like, how do we know who to trust when people claim to speak for a higher power?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right.
It definitely makes you think about the importance of discernment, especially in situations where you're being told to go against your gut feeling.
Exactly.
It's a story that stays with you long after you hear it.
It really does.
All right, let's move on to a story that's a little less morbid, but no less intriguing.
Okay, right.
We're talking about Jacob and Pharaoh and a blessing.
This one comes from Genesis 47. Joseph, who you might remember from the Coat of Many Colors story, has risen to power in Egypt.
Right, right.
He's reunited with his family, and his father Jacob gets an audience with Pharaoh.
Got it.
But here's where things get interesting. The text says, Jacob blessed Pharaoh.
Hold on, Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Was that usually the other way around? I'm so confused.
Yeah, you're right to question that. It's definitely an unexpected detail.
Like, is there something we're missing here?
Usually the person in authority does the blessing.
Right.
So there's a footnote suggesting that the word blessed could also mean like greeted or said farewell.
Oh.
But if we take it literally, it raises some fascinating questions.
Yeah, like what would it mean if Jacob truly blessed Pharaoh?
Well, it could imply that Jacob, the patriarch of Israel, held a kind of spiritual authority that even surpassed Pharaoh's earthly power. It adds a layer of complexity to their relationship, and perhaps even hints at the future power shift that unfolds in the Exodus story.
Yeah, so this seemingly small detail changes the whole dynamic.
Right.
It's almost like a subtle foreshadowing of things to come.
Exactly.
Speaking of power shifts, let's talk about a power that transcends even earthly authority. The power of miracles.
Ooh, I like it.
And when we think of Jesus's miracles, walking on water is right up there, wouldn't you say?
Definitely one of the most iconic images in the Bible.
But the video highlights something about this story that's often overlooked. It's easy to get caught up in the spectacle of Jesus walking on water and miss a subtler but equally mind-boggling detail.
Yeah, sometimes it's those smaller details that really make you stop and think.
What is it about this story that we tend to miss?
Well, picture the scene. The disciples are caught in a storm, terrified.
Okay.
Then Jesus appears, walking on the water.
Right.
Peter even gets out of the boat and walks towards him.
Oh, man, talk about a leap of faith.
I know, right? But then, after Jesus gets back into the boat, something incredible happens.
Okay, what is it?
John 6.21. Immediately, the boat reached the shore where they were heading.
Immediately. Not just, a little faster, but instantly at their destination.
That's right. It doesn't say they sailed quickly or that the wind changed direction.
Right.
It says immediately. It's almost like they were teleported.
Hold on, are we saying Jesus teleported them?
It's not explicitly stated, but it's certainly an interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
The video even draws a parallel to other instances of what could be considered teleportation in the Bible.
Okay, like what?
Like Philip being taken away by the Spirit after baptizing the Ethiopian eunuch.
Right. That one always seemed a bit mysterious.
And then there are Jesus's post-resurrection appearances, appearing and disappearing in locked rooms.
Is there a connection here?
It certainly makes you wonder about Jesus's power over not just the physical world, but maybe even time and space itself.
It's like, whoa, maybe these seemingly separate events are all connected by a deeper underlying power.
Right. Even if we're not talking about literal teleportation, the speed implied here is still pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of a storm and suddenly, bam, they're at their destination.
It definitely suggests some kind of supernatural intervention.
For sure.
And it connects back to a theme we see throughout the Gospels. Jesus' authority over nature.
Yes.
He calms the storm, walks on water, and perhaps even manipulates time and distance to get his disciples where they need to be.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered 5 unbelievable stories. A giant angel, superhuman speed, a perplexing prophecies, a surprising blessing, and a potential teleportation.
That's quite a range.
And each story in its own way, challenges us to think differently about the Bible.
Absolutely. To look beyond the surface and consider the deeper meanings, the symbolism, and the questions they raise.
Exactly, and it shows that even if you've read the Bible before, there are always new discoveries to be made.
Always.
New layers to unpack. It's
Okay.
a text that continues to surprise and intrigue, even after centuries of study. But what does all of this mean for us, the non-expert Bible readers listening in?
That's a great question, and I think the answer is personal to each individual.
Okay.
But, these stories, as unbelievable as they may seem, can spark our curiosity, challenge our assumptions, and maybe even inspire us to look at the world and ourselves with fresh eyes.
Totally. It's like, do we take these stories literally, metaphorically, or somewhere in between?
Right. It's up to each of us to decide what resonates.
Exactly. The Bible can be a source of comfort, guidance, history, or simply fascinating stories.
It's a book that invites interpretation and discussion, and that's part of its enduring power.
Yeah, it's true. So, okay, we walked through these 5 unbelievable stories, right? We've talked about giant speedsters, prophets, blessings, and maybe even a little time travel.
We covered a lot of ground.
I know, right? It's a lot to take in. But what's the big takeaway here? What's the message?
Well, I think that's different for everyone.
Okay.
What makes a story unbelievable anyway?
That's a good question.
Is it simply because it challenges our understanding of the world?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
does it reinforce our faith or make us question it?
Or does it just add another layer of mystery to a world that's already full of wonder? I don't know.
Right.
That's a really good question.
It really is something to think about.
Yeah, it really is.
Do these stories expand our sense of reality or just reinforce our existing biases?
Ooh, okay. So out of these 5 stories,
Yeah.
which one was your favorite? What really stood out to you?
For me, it's that image of the giant angel standing over Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a vivid symbol of divine power and judgment.
Yeah, it's like something out of a fantasy epic, right?
Exactly. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me it's the teleportation, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just so out there.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what if?
What's interesting? Even the more bizarre stories, like the one with the 2 prophets,
Oh, right, right.
they connect to broader themes in the Bible.
Yeah.
On the surface, it's confusing and tragic. But when you dig deeper, it touches on ideas of obedience, deception, and the unpredictable nature of divine will.
Each story is like a puzzle piece.
Exactly.
And when you put them together, you start to see a much larger picture.
It's an ongoing process of discovery and interpretation.
Even if you're not coming at it from a religious perspective, there's so much to appreciate.
Yeah,
The history, the storytelling, the cultural insights.
absolutely.
So final thought for our listeners. We've explored these unbelievable Bible stories, but the bigger question remains.
Do these stories challenge our understanding of what's possible, or do they simply add another layer of mystery to a world that's already full of wonder?
That's a great question to leave everyone with.
Lots to ponder.
As always, we encourage you to dive deeper into these stories yourselves and draw your own conclusions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.